Kristen Arnett is a queer fiction and essay writer who has held fellowships at Tin House, Kenyon Review, and Lambda Literary Foundation. She was awarded Ninth Letter's 2015 Literary Award in Fiction, was a runner-up for the 2016 Robert Watson Literary Prize at the Greensboro Review, and was a finalist for Indiana Review's 2016 Fiction Prize. Her work has appeared or is upcoming at North American Review, The Normal School, Electric Literature, Volume 1 Brooklyn, OSU's The Journal, Catapult, Bennington Review, Portland Review, Grist Journal, Tin House Flash Fridays / The Guardian, Salon, The Rumpus, and elsewhere. I recently went to her book release and reading at the 7-Eleven in Maitland, which felt in many ways as though I was being welcomed into her living room. We talked a bit about how 7-Eleven, wherever you find it, feels like home. I was thinking about this theme in relation to her work, and I've not yet reached any conclusions. But I'll be thinking about it tonight as she reads. Please welcome the wonderful, my friend, Kristen Arnett.
Thank you, Jared. 7-Eleven is my living room. Yeah. So I'm so happy to be here tonight with all of you. Thank you for coming. Can you hear me okay? I'm a little taller. How's that? Okay? So thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jared, for having me here tonight. I feel really blessed recently. There's a lot of shit going on, but there's a lot of good things happening too. And I am happy to share part of this fucking book with you guys. So thank you. I'm going to read a short story tonight from my book that just came out, Felt in the Jaw. This story is called Playing Fetch. So I'll read that. Thank you very much again for coming. Squirrels fight in the branches of the oak. Their aggressive chatter startles birds from the tree. They take flight as a solitary unit. The tree hangs over the front of the house and blocks the sun from shining in through the picture window. You liked this tree at first sight. You claimed it kept the power bill down in the summer when the Florida sun beat mercilessly on your head and the roof of your car. Molly didn't care for it until you'd pointed out that the base of the tree was like the palm of a giant hand. The branches spread like radiating fingers. You'd boosted her until she sat in the V, her thighs cradled in her own palms to prevent scrapes from the bark. Later, there's a picture of the two of them together in the same position. Molly's hands were under your daughter's legs, while her own were rubbed raw. That night, you kissed the red chafe marks while Molly lay face down on the bed, pressing her laughs into the duvet. I could get used to this, she'd whispered. She hadn't wanted to wake the baby. Do it. You'd licked a wet stripe up the tender skin until the flesh shook. Get used to it. The baby monitor stayed silent that night, and you'd been grateful. You thought you'd be grateful always to hear nothing but white noise from the alarm system that had woken you almost every night for over 2 years. That night, the static had been erotic, supercharged with something that stopped your ears with cotton fuzz. At your core was a battery that powered the movement of your body. You're not sure you would have heard the baby even if you'd been listening for her. Everything was Molly and tending the ache. You look at the monitors now and wonder if they work both ways. If they're anything like that Twilight Zone episode where a child receives a play telephone from his grandmother before she dies, or they have a conversation through the invisible wires beyond the grave. You press the monitor up to your ear and let your lips graze the pinholes of the audio output. Hello, you say. Are you out there? There's probably someone out there, but it's another person's baby, not your daughter. Now they make monitors with inset television screens so you can watch your child sleep peacefully and not worry for a single second that something's happening just down the hall while you kiss the slopes of your wife's breasts. Long Distance Call was the name of that episode. You suddenly remember that the dead grandmother was trying to get the little boy to run out into the street. She wanted him to get hit by a car because she was lonely. You can almost understand that level of desperation. There's room for the baby monitors at the bottom of the cardboard box labeled giveaways, but you don't put them inside. You keep them in your nightstand in case you need another reminder. Molly's petting your stomach and you want to bite her hand. She's leaning against you on the couch with her feet up on the ottoman and reading a novel for her book club that she's already read 3 times. The cover's bent down the middle, and the white line that's bleeding through the words at the center demonstrates how your wife takes care of all her books, leaving them in cars and at the DMV, outside on the patio table where it'll wind up sopping wet from a summer shower. You want to turn up the volume on the television, but every time the numbers dart up past the number 5, she looks up with that wrinkle between her eyes that's gradually deepening into a crevasse. "Come on," she says, "I want to finish this tonight." The coffee on her breath sour, but not enough to stop you from kissing her. "I want to watch the movie." Your finger fits exactly into the groove between her eyes. She smiles and it flattens out, like stretching open a wrinkled shirt. You smile back. "And I'm thirsty. Can I have some orange juice?" She asks, "Are your legs broken?" Both of you look down to where her hand still rests on your belly, the palms flat against the curve where the minnow swims inside, still small enough to flip curlicues and roll into a ball the size of a lima bean. Her fingers twitch. "Right, I'll get it for you." "No, it's okay. It's fine." Your attempts to get up are half-hearted, and she leaves the book open with your thigh as a placeholder while she gets your drink. You weren't that thirsty. Instead, you spread out a little more comfortably on the sofa and turn up the volume on something you weren't even really watching. It's one of those rom-coms where the protagonist is secretly in love with her best friend, the man who plans to marry a woman who isn't right for him. You can't understand that kind of romance. From the moment you met your wife, you met your best friend. It was at a Halloween party thrown by a guy you barely knew from your sociology class. The only reason you decided to go was because you couldn't stomach watching scary movies all night in your PJs while your roommate boned her boyfriend in the bed 5 feet from yours. Molly was dressed as one of the little dead girls from The Shining, but she was alone. You told her you liked her knee socks and asked her to say the famous line. When she did, you told her your name was Danielle, but that everyone called you Danny. She laughed and told you that her girlfriend bailed, so she'd had to wear the costume alone. You're the only one who knew who she was supposed to be. She put her hand on your arm, and you could feel the warmth of her fingertips all the way through your shirt. You told her that she didn't feel like a dead girl. She smiled, revealing a crooked left canine, and asked if you wanted to find out for sure. That night back in your dorm room, she peeled off your banana costume and made a joke about splitting after the night was over. But in the morning, she was still there. She'd broken up with her girlfriend, still lying on the bed beside you, whispering darkly into your telephone. Her hair was red in the light from the half-open blinds. There were sleep creases on her cheek, and you thought she was the best-looking woman you'd ever seen. Molly brings you the juice, and it's in your favorite glass, the one with the etched olive leaves in green around the lip. She hands it to you, and your fingers brush together, and it's like you're 20 years old in a college dorm room all over again. You take a sip of the juice, and it's like fire on your tongue, so sweet and pulpy that you're nearly chewing through each gulp. "Could I have another?" you ask. There's a beat while she stares at your belly, as if the orange juice is flowing directly to the bulge, as if she could stand there and watch it swell further. "Yes, of course." She kisses your sticky mouth, and when she puts her hand back on your belly, you remember putting your hand on hers and feeling the life inside, struggling against the walls of the womb. This baby's calm in comparison. They're coming to pick up the boxes from the spare room. Even though you're going to have another baby and the baby will live in that space, you don't call it the baby's room. It's just empty. The walls are still powder pink, and there's a gash where you tried to hang the quilt your grandmother made for you when you were a toddler, and the hammer went straight through the drywall. Molly boxed up all the things one night while you were out with some work friends. When you came home, they were stacked and labeled in handwriting you didn't recognize, severe block print and dark permanent marker. Clothing, infant, age 0 to 12 months, and then clothing, toddler, with no date given after the word toddler, even though you know for a fact the clothes only go up to age 3. You never had a reason to buy anything older than that. No tween clothes with glitter or jeans or flannel shirts, which is what you wore for all your 13th year while you scowled at your own mother and cut off your hair with scissors in your best friend Becky's bathroom. She'd shaved the underside of your head and nicked you a few times. Those cuts scabbed up bright red, and while you slept on Becky's bed that night, your scalp adhered to the bed sheet. When you woke up the next day, you had to peel your head away from the fabric. Your mom hadn't spoken to you for 2 weeks afterward. You swore you'd never be that kind of mother. A few boxes of toys are in the pile, but you're mostly interested in the one at the top of the stack. Molly ran out of packing tape, so the box's flaps are slightly open, revealing a dark gap, and there's an arm poking out from the top, a disembodied thing waving at you. You're trying to think of what doll that arm could belong to, but you can't remember. You can even see a bit of its sleeve poking up along with the tanned baby flesh, flowered fuchsia and lime green. This should be enough of a clue, but you still can't place it. You pull one of the dining room chairs over to the stack and climb on top to look inside. If Molly were home, she'd yell at you to get down and ask if you were crazy. She wouldn't ask if you were trying to kill the baby, but that's what she'd think as she looked at you with her eyes all shiny and hot enough to break open and spill. You pull out the doll, and it's wearing a bonnet on its fat head covered with blonde sausage curls gathered at each side with its rosy plastic cheeks. The eyes blink open slowly, and they're green, bright green like the print on the dress. It smells moth-eaten and old like the inside of an attic. You wonder if it was a gift from one of your great aunts. No matter how long you stare at the doll, you can't manage to place her. Was she Molly's? The doll's lips are pink and pursed, and there's a small black hole where a nipple from a tiny plastic bottle would fit. You never fed your daughter from a bottle. You heard it might cause nipple confusion. This was a term you whispered to each other, you and your wife, back when she was still breastfeeding. It seemed like the most awful thing you could experience. What if your daughter had nipple confusion and wouldn't take the breast? The doll's missing hair from the back of its head from where the strands became too brittle and broke off. You wonder if your daughter could have eaten some, that perhaps it had obstructed her airway. You know this isn't true, but you think it anyway. When the doorbell rings, you're still standing on the chair. You don't answer the door, even though they press the bell 4 more times, and Molly's going to get angry because the boxes are going to sit stacked in the room for another few weeks. You can't remember where you got the doll, and you stand on the chair, and you cry over it until you hear your wife's car in the driveway. Then you go in the bathroom and splash your face with cold water until your eyes look normal again. The girl has a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon waxing at her right temple. It's mid-afternoon, and outside the sun is high over her left shoulder. She's wearing a pair of dark jean overalls that are cut off at the knee and a white T-shirt with the neck yanked out as if she's been pulling at it a lot or maybe someone grabbed her. She's got a mass of dark hair floating around her head, and she's wearing clear plastic jelly shoes. Her naked toes wriggle around inside them like tiny pink shrimp. "I'm selling wrapping paper," the girl says. "They told me you buy some." "Who's they?" you ask, though you already know who they are. The elderly neighbors next door know you're a sucker for kids. It makes them feel better for turning her away to give another bell to ring. The girl doesn't answer. Her silence is oppressive, like someone's pressing a pillow against her face and slowly suffocating her. "What's your name?" you ask, because someone has to talk now. "Bianca." There's a catalog hanging limply from her hand. You reach out for it, and she yanks it away like you're trying to steal it. "What kind of wrapping paper?" She unfurls the catalog, and you can see the sweaty imprint of her hand. You bet she must be hot, walking around all day in the Florida heat, but maybe it's weird to offer her a drink. She looks too young to be out alone, no older than 8 or 9. You crane your neck, but you don't see a parent waiting down at the end of the driveway. You'd wait down at the end of the driveway if you were her mother. "We got all kinds. It's for school. If I sell the most, I get a bike." Her hand touches yours as she passes you the catalog. Her fingers are sticky, like all kids' hands feel, tacky, how your daughter's hands felt when she woke up from naps, covered in sweat, cranky until she got some juice and maybe some goldfish crackers or pretzels in her stomach. This girl has a sweat mustache beating over her lip. "Let me get you a drink." You can't help yourself, though the girl's face is closing up. "I've got some ice water." You back up with your hands in the air. "Stay here, I'll be right back." In the kitchen, you take down a small juice glass, one of the charming relics that you got from your great-grandmother that you never actually use. The light shines through it and makes patterns on the countertop. You take out every container from the fridge, cranberry and orange and pineapple and mango, but you wonder if she could have a food allergy. You decide on ice water, just to be safe. You crush the ice using the panel in the fridge door. You wouldn't want her to choke. Out in the hallway, the glass cold in your palm, there's no one there. You stand holding the catalog and the drink until it starts to sweat between your fingers. Then you drink it all and close the front door before the mosquitoes get inside. At the shopping mall near your house, they've got 4 different baby stores. You've shopped around in them before, but now you're in the biggest baby department with one of those guns that looks like a phaser from Star Trek. You've made the joke, "Beat me up, Scotty," so many times that your wife has stopped talking to you. Molly's got a list on her phone of what you need, and she's letting you shoot every item with the red dot. Scans over things like liners and diaper pails and a changing table with a pad the color of the antacids you carry in your purse because your indigestion's so bad that your throat's practically on fire. "What about washcloths?" Molly asks, staring at the tiny screen. "Get some of those." "We already have washcloths. Not these ones, not the small ones. Ours are too rough for baby skin." You point the gun at a stack of tiny fabric squares and fire away 4, 5, 6 times in a row. "Take it easy. Nobody needs that many." Molly puts her hand in front of the gun, and you see the bright red dot on her palm. You fire at the heart of her hand, and a sale price comes up for $4.99. "Pretty cheap date, you say." She swats your behind and laughs. Throughout the store, other mothers and grandmothers and husbands and expectant fathers load up carts with expensive equipment that their babies will only use for a few years, possibly only a few months. Babies outgrow everything so quickly. You only use that diaper disposal system for the first 2 months. It cost over $60, and then you just threw the diapers away with the garbage. There are cribs against the far wall with mobiles already attached. Some are painted pastel, and others look like relics from a doomed medieval church. "I think we'd have to name our child Tybalt if we get one of these." You point at a mobile hung with tiny, realistic dragons, wings extended and jaws open. The dragons all have sharp white teeth and tiny rows like grains of uncooked rice. Only nobility could deal with this at night. "What about Beatrice?" Molly asks, pushing at the mobile with one fingertip until the dragons are circling the prey down below, the imagined, tender, milk-fed baby for their feast. "Beatrice. That's a pretty name." You think of your daughter's crib, one that had once belonged to your older sister and her 2 children. It's back at her house now, folded up and stacked against the wall of the closet of her guest bedroom. The wood had been the color of Molly's hair, a kind of burnt red that looks sweet with the rest of the furniture, an old rocking chair that had once been Molly's mother's when she was pregnant, a toy chest that they found at a garage sale 2 streets over from their house. Molly waddled up 7 months pregnant and demanded a price reduction by half. The man selling the chest had given her the deal and then actually loaded the thing in their car. "Maybe Sir Robin," you say, shooting at a little mobile of matchbox cars. They sway delicately in the air-conditioned breeze. "I've always liked Monty Python." On the back of the wrapping paper catalog, there's a name, Bianca Minerick. There's also the name of the local elementary school in your neighborhood. You decide to walk the catalog over and order a few rolls of Christmas paper just to make up for the fact that you've kept it for over a week. It's still early enough in the day that you don't drive your car. Only a 15-minute walk. You could probably use the exercise. Overhead, the sun's a hot ball of butter that seeps into the corners of your eyes. You're thirsty and wish you'd thought to bring water. It's not until you're 10 minutes into your walk that you realize you've gone the wrong direction. There's a sprinkler going off in a yard across the street, and you're very close to walking through it just to cool off. You find yourself walking up the driveway of the closest house, 1 foot in front of the other. When you ring the bell, you remember the episode of the crime show where the pregnant woman was abducted by someone and they cut the baby out of her stomach and kept it. You put your hand on your belly. You imagine your daughter walking up to a house and needing help. You never even got to have the stranger danger talk with her, something you'll have to do with this new kid with no practice ahead of time. The doorbell rings 5 times before you give up. The stretch of driveway is too long to walk back down. You sit on the front step in the shade and wait for you don't even know what. You're dizzy and feel like you might throw up. You don't even know that the door is open behind you until you feel the cold AC hit your back. "What do you want?" The woman's elderly. She's wearing a rose chenille robe and ratty house slippers in the same color. The toes are ripped and dirty. "I'm pregnant. I'm overheated. Please." The woman keeps the door half open and doesn't move toward you to help. The breeze from the house is intoxicating. You sway backwards into it every few seconds. "You don't look pregnant," she says. "How do I know for sure?" You put a hand over your belly again. How does a person know they're pregnant? When Molly was pregnant with your daughter, you knew because she peed on a stick and showed it to you over a pizza. It was a pepperoni pizza, and every time afterwards you ate that kind of pizza, it reminded you of how happy you were to be a mother. You were pregnant then, but you weren't pregnant. Molly was pregnant. Now that daughter's gone, and it's like no one was ever pregnant with her at all. The sky blacks into pinpricks and then into nothing. When your eyes open again, you're laid out flat on the concrete slab of the woman's porch. She's kneeling over you with a cool cloth on your face. Her robe's parted, and you can see inside to her nightgown gapes open to show her wrinkled breasts. "It's okay, sweetheart." She rubs the cloth over your eyes. "Don't be scared." It's important you stay on the couch. Molly's working from home for the next few weeks. The bedroom's set up as a home office. She's given you the remote control, a big bowl of cereal with extra milk, and the baby monitor from your nightstand. The other one's sitting next to her in the bedroom so she can hear you if you need anything to get up or if you'd like more milk for your cereal. "Now I'm watching television," you yell. "Now I'm eating my cereal." There's nothing on that's any good. You're watching The Price is Right, but you miss Bob Barker, and it's just not the same as when you were a kid. Back then, home from school was a good time. This feels like prison. Stuck on your couch means stuck in the house, means your legs feel restless, and all you want to do is go drive somewhere that's away. Light glows red from the front of the baby monitor. That's how you know that it's on and that it's working, the evil red eye that stares out at you and lets you know that Molly's listening to every last thing you do while she's working in the bedroom. "Are you okay out there?" she's yelling from the back, and you want to pretend like you can't hear her, but you know that's childish. "I'm fine," you say. 10-4, over and out. On screen, a woman runs up on the stage. She's wearing a bright red t-shirt that says, "Cincinnati loves to come on down." She jumps around until her shirt lifts and you can see the fishy white of her stomach. The doorbell rings and Molly walks out from the back. "Don't get up," she says, but she's not even looking at you. She has her hair up in a high ponytail and she's wearing yoga pants even though she's never gone to a yoga class in her life. She doesn't need to. She still has the ass of a teenager. You can hear her talking to somebody, and then there are several men in your living room following your wife across the house. You're still in your nightgown, and you don't even have the time to pull the blanket over yourself. "Hello," you say weakly, and one of the men smiles at you. They're all wearing matching navy polos from a local church organization. "The boxes are over here," Molly says, and you realize that they're finally picking up your daughter's things. They carry them out one by one across the living room in front of the show where the woman is competing to win herself a brand new car by rolling a giant pair of foam dice across a table. The guy who waved at you is carrying the box with the doll arm sticking out from the top, and you can see the little slip of lime green sleeve. You pick up the baby monitor, which is pastel pink and baby lavender, and you look at the black pinholes in the face, a round mouth like a telephone. You put it to your lips. "They're taking your stuff," you say. "I can't stop them." Once it's all gone, the men leave, and your wife comes to sit beside you on the couch. She puts your legs in her lap, even though they feel still and unmovable as tree trunks. "I love you," she says. "I love you so much." "I love you too," you reply. And then you whisper it into the baby monitor to whoever might be listening. Thank you.